Well, let's jump into the north side of the bracket. The number one team in the state, the number one team in the seedings in the bracket. Of course, we're talking about Lena-Winslow, the Panthers, 13-0 on the season, looking for their fourth consecutive state championship. Coach, it's a busy week, but head coach Ric Arand is joining me here. Thanks for being here, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, you're right. It's a busy week. It's almost Monday is not even enjoyable as a part of a state championship week. As you know, we're talking off the air about just how busy things are, and on my side of things, it's a little different than yours. But you got all the requirements from the state. Our athletic director luckily helps out with that and does as much as he can. But there's things on my side of it, as well as Coach Dixon knows too, that you kind of have to get done yourself, or you have to assign to someone else to do for you. But it's still stuff you're all responsible for, and it just to be honest with you, coaching almost takes a back seat to it at some point in time for a little bit. And but back on track today. Today's Tuesday, and it'll be a much better day, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, that kind of takes me into my first question that I hadn't really prepared to ask, but I think it's worth, talking about. How much different is this week than any normal week of football prep? I mean, how hard is it to not only for you to stay focused on the game plan, but to get your kids kind of dialed in and say, like, yes, forget about Thanksgiving, forget about all of the outside noise. We got a job to do here.
Yeah, it's anything but normal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the farthest thing from a normal week that there is. Sorry about our bell. I am working today. But Camp Point had the luxury of being at home last week, which that's a huge benefit in the semifinals. Just being at home in general is we were on the road, had a 2-hour bus trip. So by the time our game was over and we got back, it was roughly 6:30 or so. And you got a lot of stuff to do, even on Saturday night yet. And so with it getting started there, Saturday night when we got home, and then you lose a day. You really lose, kind of in a way, you almost lose 2 days, but you lose a day because you're going to bounce back and play on a Friday. You kind of lose another day, so to speak, because of Thanksgiving on Thursday. So even though we'll get a light practice in on Thursday on our way down, it's just not the same. And then you're in a hotel and things like that. So it is a hectic week. Luckily, our kids have been through it before, as Camp Point has as well. So that helps the cause there for sure. And I remember, going to state for the first time and trying to figure out a schedule to go by. You need some sort of template of someone else, which is really what happened to us. We kind of patterned our stay and our week after Galena from years ago. And we're kind of still followed that. So it is definitely, to answer your question, it's not a normal week, but it's a good week. That's for sure.
I was going to say, I bet there's hundreds of coaches around the state that would take the issues that you have this week.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Nobody's feeling real bad for us. That's for sure.
So, Coach, everybody around the state at this point is familiar with Lena-Winslow, with what you guys do. I think a lot of people around the state, they always ask, if they're outside of this area, I think they always ask the question, how does this small community like yours build a power program that has had this kind of sustained success? I feel like I've asked you this every year, because it's a question that I think people talk about. And I guess there's no secret formula, because if there was, I'm sure you'd be charging for it by now. But what is it to keep you guys up at this level?
Well, that's a good question. I speak at several clinics every off season, and I get the same question from guys in the audience all the time. And I can't explain it. And it's going on 13, 14 years now that, since we went to our first state championship. Prior to that, we'd been to the semifinals and the quarterfinals numerous times, but for whatever reason, we could never get over the hump at that point in time. It is a community event, that's for sure. It's a group project, from the coaching staff. Sorry about that. That should be it. That should be it for the rest of this interview.
All right, there we go.
From our coaching staff to our players to our parents, it is definitely a group effort, and We are in constant communication with our parents really on everything we do, not only throughout the football season, but in the off season, winter weight room, if you're not a 3-sport athlete and things like that. So I really can't explain why it's happened the way it has. We have deep commitment from the community, from our parents, from our kids, from our coaching staff. One of the biggest reasons I think is our coaching staff, and not on my behalf, but our coaching staff consists of every head coach of every boys sport in our school. So our head wrestling coach, for example, is our defensive coordinator. Our head basketball coach is our offensive coordinator. Our head baseball coach is our head JV coach, and down the line, so on and so forth. So that has been huge for us. And we have a great group of volunteer coaches, some of which are within our school district as teachers, some are not. We have, between our junior high and our high school, we have 7 paid positions. That's not a lot of paid positions. We have 14 coaches. So half of our staff is unpaid. But they dedicate themselves just as anybody else does. And they know that's kind of expected out of them. And if they really want to, be part of this program. But we have teachers on our football staff from every building. I think we have we currently have 2 teachers in our elementary school, 3 teachers in our junior high school, and the rest are either in the high school or not in our school district. And so, really, from a football standpoint, we have all the coaches from every sport involved. In addition to that, with the teachers in every building, every time a kid turns a corner in a school, they see one of their football coaches or a coach on staff of any sport, really. So I think that has been a huge factor in it. And I know that's a luxury that we have. And I also know that it's not always going to be that way. We're just real fortunate right now. Down the road, when I'm retired, I'm not sure how things will look, but we have a lot of guys of my age that are on our staff. So you're going to have a lot of turnover at some point in time. And with people not wanting to get into not only the teaching profession, but also the coaching profession, I'm not sure how sustainable that is for the future, but I hope it is. I hope they're able to keep things rolling here just as they are now. But that might be out of my control someday.
Yeah, I'm guessing though that, based on what you've built there, what you've put together, somebody's going to see that opportunity and say, I can continue this, or this foundation is so strong that I can continue it. I got to believe that somebody's going to, keep it up and running. So, talking about that consistency, year in and year out, you look at this roster this year and you only returned, I believe, 4 starters from last year's group. So tell me about this year's team, kind of what you expected coming in and kind of what they've done in particular to have their success.
Yeah. We have 4 starters back, or 4 positions back. It's really only 3 kids as starters, I think. But our program has really been senior oriented over the course of time. We give our seniors every opportunity to not only lead the rest of the program, but also get on the field as much as possible. So they know going in. A lot of our starters this year were special team kids last year. Some of them might not have saw the field much, just because on special teams, you're always looking for, you're looking for speed, you're looking for real athletes, and some of our O linemen and D linemen this year that didn't play much last year probably really weren't on special teams, but they know that if they really dedicate themselves to the weight room, if they're 2 and 3 sport athletes, that they're going to get their opportunity. And we do have a good mix of underclassmen as well that have seen some playing time for us this year. So it really is no different than what the other years have looked like. We're typically graduating 16 seniors, and I think 2 years ago we graduated 18 seniors. So it seems like it's something that we go through every year, but there's always kids that are eager to have the opportunity to step up the following year. So I think that has made our program really what it is.
Yeah, when you look at this roster and, the returners you had coming back, and you didn't have a lot of returners coming back, but how vital did that make Gage Dunker in his role and how important he was going to be to kind of lead this team, to kind of be the guy this year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been a great leader, and sometimes that's a tough role to be in because you've had the luxury of playing behind Gunnar Lobdell last year, Mari Roby the year before, um, as well as Jake Zeal last year. We had a handful of running backs the last few years, and you've had the luxury of playing behind those guys, and really you can play all you want, but you don't really have to talk much. You don't have to, although Gage is always led by example in what he does, he hasn't had to be that voice, and really in some ways you don't have to be the bad guy either when you're in that role, because being the leader, being the head honcho is not always a glamorous position to be in. And as you've probably read umpteen quotes of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and things like that. They really loved that role that they were in, but it didn't make them sometimes the most liked guy on their team either. But the reality of it is somebody's got to do it, and to be good, you gotta engage that role. So Gage has been great at that. And we've had a handful of kids. Jake Shoemaker is a first-year starter for us at quarterback. He's been a leader from the word go last year even, and just kind of quietly goes about his business. But he, anything I want run through our team, spur of the moment, through social media, because I'm almost 57 years old and I could barely turn my phone on sometimes. But and I needed help with this Zoom call as well, as you know. but anything that I want done spur of the moment, Jake and Gage take care of for us, and it's good to have those kind of people to rely on. And that's, to me, that's what true leadership is, and they've been the epitome of that.
So they're your social media coordinators then? They
That too, yes. Although I'm not sure how well skilled Gage is and stuff like that, but Jake is definitely. Gage is a little bit more like me.
Okay, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Talk about. I also want to ask you about. Obviously we've seen Gage Dunker do his thing. And get a bunch of yards. But Coburn Lynch has been kind of the next man up, right? I mean, it seems like year in and year out, you find that guy, that next guy down in the depth chart, and that was Dunker a few years ago, like you said, behind Roby and behind Lobdell and Zeal, and now it's Lynch's turn to step in there. Talk about his role and kind of how he fits in.
Yeah, absolutely. Coburn wasn't a starter for us at the beginning of the year on the offensive side. He kind of rotated, and he still does. We really rotate Coburn, Nick Tippett, and Lucas Fye at those two halfback spots. And those three guys have been all three of them together have been outstanding for us. Lucas had over 100 yards rushing last week. Coburn had a pretty nice day as well. He had 2 touchdown catches and an interception at the end of the game to really save the day. And Nick had a solid game as well. So those three guys have really been. We don't sit on the sideline and go, okay, we got to get Coburn in instead of Nick or Lucas because of something we're running or whatever. It's just really whoever's in the game takes that role. But Coburn has really established himself as an explosive kind of player near the second half of the season, and he's got a great burst. Once he hits the hole and things like that. So he's definitely been a blessing for us. But Lucas and Nick have really shared that role as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, every team, it seems like year in and year out for Lena-Winslow is going to be controlled by the line, whether it's on defense or on the offensive side of the ball, creating holes for the running backs we just talked about. So here's your time, Coach. You got some linemen that are going to listen to this, so shout them out, give them their credit here. What do they do so well this year? What has this team been doing? What do you like about it?
Well, I think that this group is real similar to last year's group, even though there's only two common pieces in it. Luke Kempel's our center, and Luke actually started a few games for us last year as a sophomore before he had an ankle injury, and he really was hobbled by that most of the year. But Tanner Kempel is our right guard this year, and he played left tackle for us last year. Tanner started for us a couple of years, and he's an explosive kind of player. Odin Stabenow, who's now our right tackle, played center for us last year. And then our left guard is Ric Arand, and left tackle Gannon Dunker. Gannon is a freshman, younger brother of Gage. He actually stepped in and filled a void when Alex Packard had had a knee injury, probably about middle of the regular season. And Alex was playing real well for us and had a dislocated kneecap. And he is just now getting back to where he can play again and go through full contact drills. So we really have 6 guys in the mix there now. But this group has really, they've been able to run every blocking scheme that we want them to be able to run. They've been able to adapt and change things on their own at the line of scrimmage because, let's face it, if everybody knows you're not going to throw the ball, they get desperate when you are moving the ball, and they'll get into any front that they can possibly think of or scheme on their sideline. So we've seen it all this year. And last weekend was really the epitome of it at Chicago Hope. I mean, for the most part, they had 9 guys in the box and 2 free safeties, and that was about it. So that was the ultimate test right there. And obviously, we struggled with it, but I don't know how much we struggled because we had 400 yards rushing, but we couldn't hit any big plays. A lot of it due to their athleticism, but so we've seen about every front, and this group of O-line and our 2 tight ends, which would be Quinn Rodabaugh and Mason Speedall. They've done a really nice job together as a unit of being able to figure things out up front, and they're constantly communicating. So they have allowed us to do things probably even maybe this year a little bit more than what we did last year, even scheme wise.
Yeah. Well, you talk about, obviously they lead the way, in the rushing, leading the way for those rushers, and you rack up the rushing yards. Last week you turned to the air, and maybe that's because of, like you said, the scheming that Hope was throwing at you and really trying to, pile things up in the middle. For a team that is so run heavy, how often do you, practice, some of these passing plays? And when it comes into the game time, when is the right time to make that play call, when you're going to catch them off guard? And, you got to have that trust in the guys who don't do it very often, but they got to get the job done in that situation.
Yeah. Well, we do it a lot during practice. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
We do it every day, but, we just feel that for somebody that's built the way that we are, our system, we want to keep the clock running. We want to churn out first downs and touchdowns and control the ball. And the best way to do that without stopping the clock is to run the football. And as long as we can stay on course at a couple yards a pop, we get into trouble when we have a false start, a holding call, and we have all of a sudden have a 1st and 15 or a 2nd and 20. That's where we run into trouble. This year, we've seen some teams pack in the box. Heck, last week at Chicago Hope, our first play of the game, we had a split end out wide to our right side, right on our sideline, and they didn't even send anybody out to cover him. But we don't audible. So it was pretty hard to get that guy the ball. So for a couple of downs there, I think we had an uncovered guy on the perimeter that we just aren't capable of getting the ball to him in that situation. But as soon as they removed a safety and slid their 2, really ended up being their 2 corners down, we had to take advantage of that, and they gave us that off and on. They'd slide a safety back every now and again, but if they're begging you to throw it, sometimes you just have to do it.
Well, and it worked, and it worked effectively. So, you got the job done there. Talk about this Hope game, a little bit. This was a battle, a very talented Hope team. I'm not sure you guys have trailed a game all season long. Have you? Had you up until that point?
We trailed, I think Rockford Lutheran, I think it was, returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown maybe, but
sure.
But not late in a game like that. No. It was a struggle. We knew we needed to probably score on every possession when we got the ball, and we had several possessions where we not only didn't do that, but we gave the ball up on downs in pretty good territory for them. So they were explosive. They were a team that's very capable on scoring on any given play in many ways. Throwing the football, running the football. The quarterback was maybe the most dynamic quarterback we've ever seen, and he was absolutely incredible. And as well as he had a wideout several wideouts that were running circles around our guys. And not only that, they were great at the line of scrimmage. They were huge at the line of scrimmage, and they were good. And then defensively, like I said, they were very, very physical, which has been something that was uncharacteristic of Chicago schools that we've played in the past. but hope was the real deal. That's for sure.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about when you're down 12 in that third quarter. I believe only about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. What's the mood on the sidelines? Because a lot of your student athletes had not faced that sort of adversity. What was the conversation on the sideline at that point when you knew you kind of needed to get going?
Well, yeah, we were never really panicked because we had moved the football well against them. Really, the times where we weren't moving the football was kind of self-inflicted on us. We had some false starts, we had some holding penalties and things like that. And like I said previously in the interview, that we can't do that. We're not built for that. And so we are real particular in practice on our technique and fundamentals and things like that. So, but we were never panicked, I don't think. And once we cut it to a one-score game there, trying to think if we started the fourth quarter down 2 scores or not.
No, I think you had cut it to one score by the
Cut
fourth
the
quarter.
lead.
Yep.
And then we actually had 2 stops in the fourth quarter, I think, of them prior to the interception at the end of the game. So when we had a hard time getting stops early on. It seemed like we could just never get off the field. And we watched Hope do that time and time again in scouting them. They just made big plays when they had to, and so we were fortunate. Our defense really stepped it up when we had to. We threw some different things at them. We threw some things at our kids that we really never even practiced going into that game. We'd practiced some modifications of what we were actually doing at the end of the game, but we were playing with 5 defensive backs, which we never do. Things like that. So our kids really responded well, and then but once we got the lead late in the fourth quarter, and you think Hope is about done, the quarterback makes a great run. He makes a couple. He actually checked down for the first time to some guys in the flat, and that was stuff we were willing to give up. And then you find yourself they had a great kicker, and you find themselves within field goal position. And thank goodness, I think it was second down when we picked it off, because I'm not too certain that maybe if they gotten a fourth down that they wouldn't have kicked it. So, it was just a game in which, I think the people on the sidelines behind us were probably thinking, okay, we're going home. We're going to get beat. Everybody in the state that was watching the score is probably not going, oh, poor Lee Wynn's going to get beat today. I'm pretty certain there was a lot of people rooting for us to get beat. But in the end, our kids overcame everything, and it was a battle down to the wire. And we just had a little bit left in the tank, and that was enough.
How much can a win like that, overcoming that sort of adversity this late in the year? How much can that mean heading into the state title game?
Well, I'm hopeful that it means a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We're gonna face a Camp Point Central team that has been on a roll here in the playoff. I mean, they're 13-0, so they've been on a roll since August. But really in the playoffs, they beat a really, really good Calhoun team, I thought, and I think that was at round 2.
Yep.
And then in the next round, you win a big game against Calhoun, and you get rewarded with playing all tough.
Yeah.
And I speak with Coach Dixon throughout the season once in a while, and obviously I wished him good luck in that game, and he was really, really worried, and I was worried for him. And but Camp Point is so disciplined. They actually are somewhat of a mirror image, I think, of us and what they do and how they go about things. But right now, their ace in the hole is their kicking game, and they've made a lot of headway with that kicking game here in the playoffs. And I don't know how many onside kicks they've recovered, in the last 4 weeks, but it's been a lot. They fake punt, so they really force you to. Hopefully, Coach Dixon doesn't listen to this, because I'm hoping he decides at some point in time to do like everybody else and squib kick it and punt it out of bounds like we do. But really, they're forcing people to spend a lot of practice time on stuff that you don't normally have to spend practice time on. And so, in our practice plan yesterday, for example, we had 15 minutes dedicated to just our kick return. Well, we don't spend 15 minutes on individual drills for offense, much less kick return. And so they're forcing you to do those things. But not only are they forcing you to spend time in it, they're really good at what they do. So I think that's their ace in the hole. That's what separates them from everybody else right now. Um, and so going into this game, we just have to be really conscious of everything of where players are at on the field, of in different situations and things like that with them, because they've got it going on right now.
Talk about how much different is this week of preparation for CPC compared to prepping for a team like Chicago Hope. Obviously, different style. They want to attack you in different ways. How much does that affect your scheming, your game planning this week?
Well, they're actually kind of a breath of fresh air to prepare for, because I think we could throw our own stuff on the field and say, hey, we're just going to play Lee Win this week, or we're going to play Forreston again, and real similar game prep. But they are, like you said, they're so disciplined within what they do. You're not going to see a team that on second and short throws 10 guys into the box. So they're going to be disciplined within their defense. They're going to play their gap control scheme like they do, just like we do. So from that standpoint, it's kind of nice to know that you're going to come out and you're going to see an even front, in most of the, or an odd front in most of the field. You're going to see an even front at the end zone, or once you get inside the 20 and things like that. So that's kind of nice that you have an idea what you're going to see, because most of the time we go into games, we're prepping for stuff, and then all of a sudden we don't see that defense at all. So so it's kind of nice there, but you also know that they're going to be relentless in what they do. And their middle linebacker, for example, he's as good as it gets. He's as good as we've seen all year, and maybe that we've ever seen. And then you're also going to see him on the other side of the ball too, because he's probably, him and Gage Dunker might be the two best fullbacks in the whole state. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're just going to be relentless within what they do, and they're going to do it right all the time. You know that you have to make the perfect block on him on every play, because he's always going to be in the correct position each and every play, because he's going to be perfect all the time. Yeah. So it's a tough game prep, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the opposite of, your roster this year. They brought back, I think, like 12 guys. They had a lot of returners. They lost some guys last year too, but they had a lot of guys come back that gained that experience. How much different is this year's go around with you guys? I mean, from your thoughts, what do you think is different this time around?
Well, I think you're exactly right. They have key starters back at key positions, and I don't think you can replace that. Having a second year quarterback back, having 23 back at halfback and corner, and he's an incredible player as well. Having the split end back, the wide receiver kid, and just great players back and in key positions, and you can't replace the experience there. So yeah, like I said, they've just got it all going on right now, and they it's going to take a valiant effort from us to beat them on Friday, I think.
Yeah. Before we get into kind of your keys and what what you're focused on, talk about Coach Dixon. I know you guys have, a little bit of a relationship. You talk back and forth throughout the season. I mean, what do you see in what he does? What do you like about what he does? Obviously, it's a very similar program to you and to what you guys run.
Yeah, I think in every aspect of it is. I think in their off-season training, in-season training, things like that. Probably how they structure practice. I don't go to other people's practices because I'm busy with my own, but I'm guessing it would look pretty similar to ours. Segmented out in 10 and 15-minute intervals, and you're working on fundamental stuff, holding kids accountable for what they do, not only in the classroom and in the hallways, but outside of school, within your summer program, your summer strength and speed program, just holding kids accountable and hopefully making them better people, I think is probably what Coach Dixon would tell you too. We're not necessarily worried about winning high school football games and creating all-state kids and having kids go, off to big schools and things like that. I think that is just part of what happens when you hold kids accountable, make them responsible for the things that they're doing in every aspect of their life all the time. And, we're probably both fortunate enough living in rural America that our kids are not only getting that at school, they're getting it at home as well for the most part. And so I think that gives our kids an opportunity to be very successful outside of high school, but within the classroom and on the field too. So I think we're probably fairly close to mirror images of one another.
Yep. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Well, getting back to the game, what's your keys? What do you guys have to do well to get another state championship here, to beat Camp Point Central for the second year in a row?
Well, first of all, we have to be disciplined within ourselves. We can't have holding calls. We can't have fumbles. We can't have false starts. We can't have blown coverages in the secondary. Camp Point does not want to throw it a lot. They want to be similar to what we are. But when they do throw it, we can't give up big plays. Like we've been the beneficiary of the last few weeks. We've gotten those big plays. And on top of that, we can't give Camp Point things that like they can't steal possessions from us, I guess, on the punt game and in the kicking game, and recover an onside kick, or us fumble a pop-up kick, or give up a fake punt. So we have to be totally conscious of every move that they make in all three facets of the game.
Yep. All right. Well, Coach, you're no stranger to making that trip to state, like we talked about in the beginning of this interview. But does it change for you year to year? Do you have different kind of feeling, different emotions, when you go into it, or?
Not really. I think you really don't have time to think a whole lot about the game itself. And really, to be honest with you, some of the questions you asked me today was kind of the first time I've thought about some of those things, which is good, because I think sometimes you should sit back and enjoy it a little bit, because the week goes so fast. But I think at this point in time, we're so worried about us. And again, I think Coach Dixon would tell you that too, within what we're going to do ourselves. And how we're going to attack Camp Point Central and how they might attack us. I think we're so worried about us right now that, worrying about them is pretty much secondary at this point in time. We know they're going to be good. They're 13-0. They've beaten some great teams coming into it. And like I said, I think they're really on a roll. So I think, we have to go out and play our game of football. And we have to execute at the highest level, and we have to be stingy on defense, and we can't give the rushing game 300 yards of rushing, or we're going to be in trouble.
Yep. Well, Coach, you said it. You guys are mirror images of each other in programs, but Coach Dixon is going to be wearing shorts on the sidelines, and I know that you gave that up a long time ago.
Yeah. He's crazy. That's for sure.
It's been a pretty mild fall though, so he's gotten away with it.
He's a really, really smart guy, and I really like Coach Dixon, but as he gets older, he'll get a little bit smarter in that respect too. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Coach, for being here. Head coach Ric Arand of the Lena-Winslow Panthers. They're headed to the state championship game for a rematch against Camp Point Central. Coach, I appreciate your time, and good luck on Friday.
Yeah, it's always great being on your show. So thanks for having me, and always look forward to it. Unfortunately, it only happens once a year, but that's okay. We look forward to it anyway, but you're a busy guy and we're busy and all that stuff. So.
I think you are my most frequent guest though. The most interviewed coach, I'm sure.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll take it. So. Well, hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Good luck, Coach.
All right. Thanks.